This podcast is about your marketing metrics assignment, task 1.2, where the examiner is getting you to think about the challenges an organization could have when using metrics. Now, to use metrics, the fundamental input is data. Now, one is to capture the data at multiple points, internally and externally. And the second is to work with multiple departments in the organization for data sharing. If data is not shared that each department has with marketing and marketing sharing with the others, the chances are the accuracy, the timeliness, the completeness, the transparency of the metrics that you calculate will not be there. So it's very important as a student to understand the problem of data sharing and metrics calculation in your company. To do this, you have to speak to people, study the company, and all these discussions you have with multiple people in the organization. You will have to bring it to the assignment by giving clear sources. This has to be really practical. Now, to do this task, it's important you have some background work, maybe as your annexures. At least 2 years of data, broken by monthly or quarterly to be captured. Sales data of couple of products, broken down by categories, even broken down by segments, broken down by certain channels, branch network, web, kiosks, partnerships. You got to break your sales down. You got to also have data related to certain promotions, again based on different channels, months, indicating seasonalities. So we got to get this data in place. Of course, the other fundamental data is your marketing budget data. Breaking up the budget line by line. If it's digital, you break it up by different social media platforms. You break it down by certain campaigns you've done. And important to have a fair, detailed data set. Now ensure you give sources from where you get this data. You also can make some assumptions, but state the assumption clearly in the document. So a 1 or 2 pages of data such as this is going to really help you to make this task successful. On the other hand, you also need access to the organization structure. Not just drawing the structure, but indicating some of the roles of these areas of the organization, and also maybe using some diagrams to show the data sharing practices, the frequency of that happening. A great piece of work on the structure, as discussed earlier, could be in the company background or maybe as a separate annexure. You will need this to do this part of the assignment. Examiner also talks about some system issues and culture issues. Now, systems could be technical systems such as your ERPs like SAP or any other ERP, which also stands for Enterprise Resource Planning software, that you use to communicate with different departments. In marketing, we also talk about a system called MKIS, Marketing Information System. Most organizations don't have a highly technical system, but the system could be an email that goes in, a meeting that happens between departments, a simple Excel file that gets shared between each department. So you got to identify some of the systems that are there for data sharing. Are they working or not? So this background work will help you start this task. Now let's understand, how do you start this? For an example, what's a good start? Maybe some of you will start by appreciating the current situation in the company. You'd identify some of the key metrics used in the company and which departments are involved to share those data. And you will highlight some of the issues that the company is currently facing. That's a good start. Of course, when you use the terms such as metrics, data sharing, cross-functional, you will have to use certain references and include them into your discussion for you to ensure that your theoretical background is in place for this discussion. Some of you might just start in another aspect by highlighting the importance of accountability, maybe referring to a Malcolm McDonald or Paul Farris. Highlight the importance for metrics to help marketing accountability. That again has been discussed by many authors. And then highlight the importance of data for the calculation of metrics and the cross-functional integration for the success of an organization, and in this case for data sharing. So you can use multiple of these approaches to set the platform for this task, rather than just jumping with a very basic definition or just quickly getting into a table without a clear appreciation of what you plan to do. So think about this carefully and get a proper start. So the flow is very clear. Now here, some of you might use a table to understand the structural, cultural, and system issues or positives that's hindering or enabling data sharing. So for an example, marketing and finance are two very, very interrelated departments. Clearly, marketing has to capture external data like competitive pricing, channel information, productivity information, promotional actual spend. All that is captured by marketing most of the time. On the other hand, finance will capture sales data, cost data, their historical data. So these two departments will have to share this data. But is this happening? How does it happen? In your table, have you indicated, is this data sharing happening through on a daily basis, or through a meeting, or through sharing of a file? How does this happen all the time? So have you identified, are there any structural issues of the two departments that it doesn't happen frequently, or there are gaps? What about culture issues? Do you see any ritual issues where different departments operate differently? Do you see any routine issues? Again, do you see any power structure issues? Maybe the finance department directly reports to the CEO, whereas the marketing department might have a different channel. So there could be a power issue. As a result, two departments might not work together cohesively. So what are these issues have to be identified very clearly. And you can't just do it in a table. Table is probably just to visualize your findings, summarize it, but you might use a couple of paragraphs to show exactly what the problems are. So because of a relationship between example, marketing and finance, what metrics are suffering today? What metrics are getting done effectively? So that type of reference has to be made. And a final conclusion, if required, could be made about key hindrances and key enablers between the relationships of different departments that helps you get your metrics strategy right. So think about it and get this task done properly, because it sets a very good tone to the rest of your assignment.